The Krelll warship Bloodclaw drifted through the debris field of what had once been a human colony transport. Commander Vexter stood on the bridge, his chitinous mandibles clicking with satisfaction as his crew sorted through the wreckage for salvage and prizes. "Commander," his second officer hissed, "we've found something unusual in the escape pod cluster." Vexter's compound eyes gleamed. The Krelll were known throughout the galaxy as raiders, collectors of trophies from conquered species. When the Galactic Council had warned them about provoking humanity, they had laughed. Humans were soft, emotional creatures who had only recently joined the spacefaring community. The pod was brought aboard, and inside they found a human child, the boy no more than 6 standard cycles old, with sandy hair and frightened blue eyes. He clutched a worn stuffed animal and trembled as the Krelll surrounded him. "A human youngling," Vexter mused. "This will fetch a handsome price on the collector's market. Or perhaps I'll keep him as a pet." The boy, his identification chip, read Anakin, said nothing, but tears streamed down his face. What the Krelll didn't know was that Anakin hadn't been alone on that transport. His guardian had been there too. 3 days passed. Anakin was kept in a small cell in the ship's holding bay, given minimal food and water. The Krelll crew would occasionally peer through the viewing panel, amused by the crying human child. They didn't understand his words, but they recognized fear, and it entertained them. On the 4th day, things began to go wrong. It started with Lieutenant Krelll, who had been assigned to guard the holding bay. His body was found in the morning, torn apart with such precision that the ship's doctor couldn't determine what weapon had been used. The wounds were clean, almost surgical, yet the violence suggested something primal. "Sabotage," Vexter declared, though unease crept into his voice. "Check all systems. Find the infiltrator." But there was no infiltrator. The ship's sensors showed no unauthorized life signs. Every airlock and docking port was sealed. The next night, 2 more Krelll disappeared. Their screams echoed through the corridors, but by the time security teams arrived, there was only blood and strange scratches on the bulkheads, as if something had climbed the walls. Vexter accessed the cell's surveillance footage. Anakin sat in the corner, hugging his stuffed animal, looking small and helpless. Nothing appeared unusual. Then he noticed something. Every few hours, the boy would whisper to the shadows in the corner of his cell, and sometimes the shadows seemed to whisper back. By the 6th day, half the crew was dead or missing. Panic had set in. The Krelll were warriors, feared across a dozen systems, but they were being hunted aboard their own ship by something they couldn't see. Couldn't fight. Vexter finally made the connection when he reviewed the transport's manifest. The ship had been carrying colonists to New Terra, but there had been one passenger listed differently. Amidala, bonded guardian. His blood ran cold. He accessed the galactic database, searching for information on human bonded guardians. What he found made his mandibles tremble. Humans, it turned out, were not alone in the universe. When humanity had first ventured into the stars, they had encountered something ancient, something that had been waiting. The Xenath beings of shadow and thought, predators from a dimension adjacent to normal space. They were creatures of nightmare, capable of moving between worlds. Nearly impossible to kill. First contact had been catastrophic. The Xenath had slaughtered entire colonies. But then something unexpected happened. They bonded with humans. Not all humans, but certain individuals, usually those who were kind, innocent, pure of heart. The Xenath, creatures of instinct and hunger, found something in these humans that calmed their violent nature. They became protectors instead of predators. The Galactic Council had classified this information. Most species didn't know that many human children, especially those traveling through dangerous space, had zenith guardians. The creatures were invisible to most senses, existing partially out of phase with normal reality, and the Krelll had taken a bonded child. Vextha rushed to the holding bay, his personal guards surrounding him. Through the viewing panel, he saw Anakin sitting quietly. The boy looked up, and for the first time in days, he smiled. "Amidala says you're scared," Anakin said softly in his child's voice, somehow knowing that Commander could hear him. "She says you hurt me. She says you took me from my family." The lights in the corridor began to flicker. The temperature dropped so rapidly that frost formed on the bulkheads. Vexta's guards raised their weapons, but at what? There was nothing to shoot. Then they saw her. She emerged from the shadows like smoke given full, impossibly slender, with too many joints in her limbs. Her face was a smooth, featureless mask except for 3 vertical slits that might have been eyes. Her fingers were long, ending in claws that seemed to cut through reality itself. Amidala, she moved with liquid grace, and the Krelll guards opened fire. The plasma bolts passed through her as if she were mist. Then she was among them, and the corridor became a slaughterhouse. Vextha ran. His warrior pride abandoned him as primal terror took hold. He could hear her behind him, hear the wet sounds of his guards dying. He reached the bridge and sealed the blast doors, but he knew it wouldn't matter. The shadows in the corner of the bridge began to move. She materialized before him, this creature of darkness and death. But she didn't attack. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him with those alien eyes. Behind her, small footsteps echoed. Anakin walked onto the bridge, holding his stuffed animal. He looked at Vextha without hatred, only sadness. "You should have been nice," the boy said simply. Amidala's hand, if it could be called, that stretched out and touched Vextha's forehead. He felt his mind opening, felt her inside his thoughts. She wasn't killing him. She was making him understand. He felt every moment of Anakin's fear, his loneliness, his tears. He felt the bond between boy and guardian, a connection deeper than family, forged in love and trust. He felt Amidala's rage not at being attacked, but at seeing her beloved child suffer. When she withdrew, Vextha collapsed, weeping. The Bloodclaw was found drifting 3 days later by a human patrol ship. Most of the Krelll crew was dead. Commander Vextha was alive but catatonic, muttering endlessly in his language about shadows and monsters. In the holding bay, they found Anakin, safe and unharmed, sleeping peacefully. The shadows around him seemed darker than they should be, and the rescuers could swear they felt something watching them, something protective. The child was returned to his family at New Terra. The incident was classified, buried under layers of security protocols, but word spread among the raider clans and pirate guilds. Human children were off limits, always, because you never knew which ones had guardians, and you never, ever wanted to find out.